Your hosts are Jared and Jason, and you have arrived at the after party. The crown winner, last time we were together, goes to the one and only, you know him well, you do know him well, Dude Bro Moment. Financially gifting $75. Congratulations and thank you so much, champ. We have a second place that looks like it was, let's see. It was, was this Tomb of Arminius? And I guess it was, what is that, pounds? Oh, no, it must have been in euros. I think that's what it was. And it came out to $50. Thank you so very much. And congratulations to you as well. Everybody, you may financially gift on Entropy, on Odyssey, if that's your want. But remember, they shadow ban us over on Odyssey. So giving them any percentage of your financial gift might not be the best. You may also financially gift over on Cash App, which is free to use and available in all the URLs in the description below. Here on tap, you know that Jared and I evenly share the financial gifts with our guests. Now, today we have the Dean of the School of the West, Brent Danger, on tap. Brent, please introduce yourself to folks who may not know who you are or what School of the West is. Tell them where they can find you, and then the great Jared George will take us into this conversation.
Okay. Hi, my name is Brant, and I put together a website called schoolofthewest.world, along with the help from other teachers and professionals, and it is a resource for homeschooling parents. And it delivers both educational and psychological material that's good for kids that are being homeschooled. And there's always a contact email at the bottom of the pages on the website where I can be reached.
Well, for anyone that doesn't know, Brant has been on a few times now, and you can always go search the older episodes because he's been keeping us abreast of how this has been growing. It's a really incredible project, and the exact kind of thing that we love to see, that should have and did grow out of everyone coming together, getting to know each other, inspiring each other. It's just a beautiful thing. So, Brant, I understand that you have some updates, so I'll just turn it over to you, see where you might want to highlight first.
Okay. All right. So a few of the things on the site have been simplified. Jason, if you could scroll down underneath that main picture there, I've got a little widget on the site, something that right there, it says from our community. So what this does is it scrolls through different types of videos, music videos, or other videos from our community. And I think I've got about 20 little clips on there right now. So they'll move by themselves, or you can scroll through them. And if you click on one of those pictures, I mean, you don't need to do it right now, but it will go off the site. It will go to Odyssey or YouTube or wherever else that is. And so this isn't everything that all of our people have done, but it's just kind of like an introduction to what some of our people have done. And you can go there and you can look and then see other material that they have put together. So it's just a little place where we can look and see there's actually people making something. We actually have a culture.
Yes.
And people
I got to jump in really quick, brother. I love this. This is fantastic. This is really cool.
There's a guy named Jared George on there too.
Yeah, I see that.
It's pretty cool.
Really?
Please continue. I think I'm elated by this. I had to jump in.
It looks really good too,
yeah.
By the way. That's a nice scroll bar thing you got going there.
Thank you. And down at the bottom of the page, I put a couple videos on there because I'm trying to tweak this a little bit more towards culture. A little bit more, Jason. Can you see those? Okay, there they are. So there's one from Asha Logos, and then there's one by Daughter of Albion. And I don't know what stream Daughter of Albion used, but she put together videos to go along with the audio. So one of these is in the States and one of these is in the UK. And it's just going over culture and the type of lives that people had when they had communities made for them that they were comfortable with. It's just reminiscing over that. It's not
Yeah.
talking about anyone else. There's no aggression. There's no blaming or anything. It's just saying, look, this is what we had. This is how well this worked when we have a society that's made for us, made for our biospirit. Everyone in the community is in tune with it.
Yeah, it's interesting, Brad. I'll just briefly say before coming on air tonight, I said hello to a neighbor that I pass, and we'd never really spoken before. Just quick highs, and we got into a longer conversation this evening, and it was by and large a lovely conversation. And I was told that I'd been since they moved maybe 6 months ago, 5 months ago. I was like one of a couple of people who had said hello and actually, bothered to try to get to know them a little bit and have a conversation. Now, I know that might not be the same in every area of every country. Um, I don't live in a totally rural area, but I don't live in an urban area right now either. Let me put it this way: I live in an area where not too long ago it would not have been like that at all. I don't live in like a downtown, big bustling city area right now, and to hear that kind of thing, it it hit me a little bit how we are just everyone's losing touch with each other, and there's been such a disintegration of, I mean, there's a whole constellation of things that go into that could be a whole show in and of itself, of course. It affects everyone, of course, but the cultural aspect, not knowing where other people stand, or knowing if they have the same points of reference as you, the same language, so to speak. Obviously not English. I'm not speaking literally English. I mean, I'm using that a little more poetically, but speak the same language, have the same points of reference, and everyone just feels like they have to go, I don't know, go to their job and then go home and keep their heads down. It's extremely dehumanizing. It's making people automatons and taking away the heart and soul of things, and that kind of thing, absolutely, I think it's vital to highlight that, discuss it, think about ways personally and collectively that can be turned around. I mean, in the very least, all of us can, be aware of that and try to, not everyone's an extrovert. I'm not saying I am. I'm probably kind of 50-50 extrovert, introvert, but we can all, I think, be a little more aware of reaching out and trying to inject that person-to-person touch a little more that is really part of a whole fulfilled life.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've lived in towns where everyone knew each other. I've lived in other towns that were a little bit bigger and everyone didn't know each other, but it was still very low crime and high trust. And you don't need to lock your doors, and you don't need to lock your vehicles either. And then I lived in other places that are not like that at all. And I think a lot of us are familiar with the latter examples, where it's low trust, and again, for many reasons, which you alluded to. And one of the things that I want to say about this is, yeah, here's a couple of examples. Now, they're from the past, but that doesn't mean that can't happen again. Exactly. And one of the things that I try to stress to people is that, look, first you got to realize whatever you want for yourself or for our people, realize that it's not that big of a deal. It can get done. It can get done. And if enough people decide to do it, it will get done. Just like if you look around on the earth where there's a lot of places that are so-called, there's improvements there, they're built up, there's industry, whatever is there, a bunch of steel and concrete and ugliness. Well, all that stuff can be taken down and nature can regrow over that again. Everything on the planet is temporary. So we can mold things the way we want, and we can do it without, being aggressive towards other people. First thing is just realize what we want, just like everyone else every culture or race of people or, subgroup, they should be able to live in peace around their own type of people, a lifestyle that they're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And these are just a couple of examples of that. So one time it's kind of sad, but at the same time, it can also be inspirational.
Right. It inspires us to strive to be in such an environment again, to create such an environment again, not to go back. And we really need to be careful about the terminology we use, not to go back, but because this is in us. These environments are in us. We go forward to create, to recreate what we've created before. We see these things and we can do it again. We can do even better than before. Because now, I mean, with things like School of the West out there and Dean Danger, we are...
The coolest Dean name of all time.
I know it. It is the coolest Dean name of all times. We're going to be able to identify as a single people with a single biospirit with many countries all around planet Earth. And that's not been done for the white race ever. So this is something wonderful, wonderfully beautiful, romantic and heroic, all at the same time. And at the same time, peaceful and fair to everyone, including everybody else that is living in Western civilization, that is a contributor and doesn't want to, with anti-white malice and mendacity, aforethought, destroy what is our biospirit, and ultimately that is to destroy us. So this is a beautiful thing. I want to jump in, Brent, real quick and ask about you're wanting to. You mentioned here you're wanting to go and add some more cultural stuff to the School of the West. What was the thinking there? So before we move on to anything else you have, what was the thinking there with that?
Well, my thinking is, what is the foundation? Like, I'm not, a super extroverted person either, kind of like what Jared was talking about. My personality is more towards get back in the background, build the foundation of something. The foundation has to be as perfect as possible, as solid as possible. Then you can start building other things on top of it. If you don't have the foundation, it's not going to work. So to me, the foundation is our culture. We have to be able to express ourselves. Our people have to be able to identify with something. So here's kind of like what I'm talking about. So in the last high school that I was teaching in, there's a group there's an organization for a non-white group for the students in the school and for some teachers and other people affiliated with the community that's very positive for this group. They bring in, dancers and speakers, and they have get-togethers, and they have traditional ceremonies, and they have fundraisers where they make traditional food. And it's all positive and it's steeped in their culture, okay? They can all identify with that. Now, whites, we've been spread all over the place and we're kind of deracinated. So to me, the foundation is getting back to our culture. Let's start identifying some of these things. And that's why we can look at a video from the UK, we can look at a video from the States. It's the same thing because it's the same biospirit everywhere. Mm. If we had a colony on the moon, it would be the same thing there.
Right.
So for me, I already know all this stuff, but for someone that's, groper age, they may not know any of this stuff because they haven't been alive that long, or they're living in a place that's all mixed up. They don't, and the stuff that they see on TV and the movies is all garbage. So my thinking is, let's strip away all the stuff which is, deracinating and devolved and sends people off in the wrong direction. And let's just look at some of what we have or what we used to have. And we have some of this now in different areas where we're able to have an environment that we're comfortable with. So here's a couple of very well-made videos, very simple videos, just saying like, okay, here's what we used to do here and here's what we used to do here. Now, it doesn't seem complex, doesn't seem powerful, but it really, really is. when you sit down and you watch these things, and you see what's the text is, and you see what this guy is saying about this stuff that he lived through and how important that was to him. And then he started seeing these changes happen, and all of this started getting destroyed slowly until it doesn't exist anymore. And that's why I put the stuff up there at the top about our community. Like, for example, these songs that Jared George has done, this is an expression of our biospirit. It's all positive, and it's something that our people can look at and go, oh, okay, I understand what this is about, where we are being creative. And I think it's not about, fighting and complaining and, necessarily studying history and rehashing history. There's a place for all of that, but more important than anything else, speaking from a spiritual level, creation is more important. It's more important to be creative than to fight against something, try and change something. Like, there's something here that you don't like. Well, create what you do like over here. Okay. You may not be able to tear this down, but you can create something. So let's focus on the creative aspect.
That actually goes perfectly with something Jason said before. It made me think of something I just want to briefly say, just to mention, whether you guys take it somewhere or chat has any comments about it or not, is obviously it's very important to know history. Brant, you're a teacher. I'm sure you would agree with that, and that a lot of it has been obscured and or perverted. But that meme, when Jason said return, like sometimes you'll see memes with the word return over it, and they'll even make the U look like more like a V. It looks more Romanesque, like Latin, I should say. Or we have to go back. I'm sure we've all seen that. I'm not sure that's the healthiest thing. I understand the sentiment, but if you stay there, it's very passive and sort of implicitly defeatist. And I just think that we all need to keep that front and center. That sure, you learn from these things, or you could take examples from how you want to live. And like Brad said, it's not like this faraway thing. It's in you. It's a normal thing to want community and trust and solidarity, and that can happen again right here and now. And that's the exact point: is that the vitality of life, whether it's in an individual or in a culture, you start dying when you're living in the past every day. And it's not to say that it's only about the future. There's a balance, of course, but there's many sayings and kind of pithy remarks about this that all basically say that once a culture starts just looking to the past or just starts rehashing the past, it's a sign that it's dying. And I even observed that as a kid, where being attuned to popular culture and popular arts somewhat, it seemed like everything recently has just been a rehashing of things that already happened. Um, whether you're into it or not, a big point of reference for me is rock music, or popular music in general. And there's definitely new things going on, but so many trends, fashion and music wise, seem to kind of be rehashings of things that already happened in the 60s, 70s, 80s, somewhat the 90s. Even in the 90s, that was kind of happening already from what I can see. Um, when certain things came out in the 60s or 70s, it's not like it came out of nowhere. Everything has its antecedents, but they weren't saying like, this sounds like this band. They were doing it for the first time. And that is happening on, in all sorts of fronts. On a deeper level with what you were saying, even more importantly, with the way people live, the community, the trust, everything that you were saying before, what those videos that Daughter of Albion did, what they represent, what they demonstrate is, it's wonderful to be inspired by that, but you have to take that as inspiration, but then feed it into this engine of right now what you get excited about creating. Because if it's just this culture of sharing memes that say return or we have to go back, well, no, we're not going back. We're creating something new. It's not going to be quite what it was in the past, and that should be exciting.
Yeah, I think those are good points. For example, I've loved studying the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire for a long time. There's a lot of aspects about that I appreciate and I think are very interesting. But as the Roman Republic was being formed, I doubt that the guy stood around and said, "Hey, people are going to talk about us for a couple thousand years later on. We're pretty cool, aren't we?" No, they just made their civilization. So we just need to make our civilization.
I agree completely with that. I think that we can say, just articulating this the right way, to say that we're moving forward to something better that will recreate some of the best aspects of who and what we are that we have seen from time to time in our past, and create things anew that make those environments even more wholesome, even more salubrious than we see in these videos. And when we look at healthier times, it's probably not even healthy really to say when we look back, but technically, of course, it's accurate. Time moving forward, but maybe it's more accurate to say when we look at who we are, these might have been different periods in a continuum of time, but they are nonetheless an expression of our biospirit, which is perennial. As long as we survive, those expressions survive. And that we can now compare and contrast to where we are today. There's the logical fallacy, of course, that everything in the past is inferior to everything in the present, and then, of course, the projection of the present into the future, that the present would continue as is, getting more, for example, in our case, anti-white. So we don't want to fall into that pitfall. And in my effort to be much more diplomatic in the white sympathetic sphere, when we come across people who are in folly here, when they are, in our opinion, when they are advocating and they're out with the memes and et cetera, and they're advocating that we go back, we have to go back. The best thing to do is just to have a little back and forth with them about maybe sharing some of the things that what the three of us have shared, and then inviting them to check out School of the West, check out the Go Free method, see if you don't like it, hang out for a couple of months, and you can always go back to talking about going back in time if you would like to a more primitive state, and that leaves the door open to them. People are so wedded, and Brant, maybe you have, since you're working with so many wonderful people, and could we get some 07s and some raucous emojis, please, in the chat for Brant and all of these contributors, the new contributors to School of the West, and the veterans as well at School of the West. They're doing really wonderful work, and this is the biggest type of thing on planet Earth of this kind. So we're very proud of Brant and everybody who's contributing there. It's a really wonderful endeavor. But Brant, have you come across people? As you've spoken to folks about what would go into School of the West? Have you come across? Don't name anybody, but have you come across some people that have some antiquated ideas about what's best for Western kind, and what would be best to teach the children of Western kind, or have you been pretty much free from that in these conversations?
Well, there is a little bit of that, and I would be surprised if there wasn't any of that. And I totally get it, because I also place a high importance upon history, not history just for history's sake, to be pedantic or autistic, but to look at what actually happened in history and then see the analogy between something in history then, and if we know what actually happened, then we can see the same patterns emerging right now, so we can avoid those pitfalls. But I think what you're talking about is referring to some specific things in history that we look to with fondness, or we realize that maybe those events in history have been lied about, and we want to try and correct the record, or we want to talk about that. And here's the way that I think about that. if you're in a watercraft, a kayak, a canoe, a destroyer, a battleship, whatever, the bigger the boat, the more inertia it has more mass, and the longer it takes to turn around. So the way that I look at what's happened to our people is there's a huge amount of inertia. It's been going a really, really, really long time, but you can turn it around with just a little tugboat. But you can't take your tugboat up at top speed and just smash it into it. It's not going to work. You put the tugboat alongside and you just start slowly moving, and it will move around. It'll move around. So we got to do that with our culture. We got to do that with the recognition of our biospirit. Out into the future, if we want to talk about history, if there's going to be a time when people are actually going to be honest about history, and we're not going to be socially lynched for telling the truth or trying to even talk about things like adults, if that time comes, then that's the appropriate time to address these things. Right now is not the appropriate time to do that. It's kind of like if you're on trial and you're the defendant and there's a prosecution, but you can't actually defend yourself and you don't have your own attorney. You just have to sit there right now. I feel like that's the situation that we're in. All the control is on the other side. But
it's a great metaphor.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a great metaphor.
Thanks. I just made it up. But we can still talk about our culture right now. So I guess I'm kind of meandering all over the place. So yeah, there is a little bit of that, but everyone who wants to contribute to this, they understand that situation as well. I mean, they're not that different from me. I understand the history, but I also understand what can we do right now? What is acceptable to people's psyches? Because one of the things that I've said a lot of times is the majority of people that I've come across in my life, they don't actually want to know the truth about something if it's uncomfortable for them. They want to continue to believe things that they're already psychologically comfortable with. That's why it's so hard to get through to some people. You can just feed them just a little bit of information at a time that's just slightly off from what they already believe. Otherwise, they'll just shut down.
Yes, that is true about being wedded to their beliefs. And I was thinking, when you just said that, again, with what you two were talking about a little while ago, is with the return memes and everything, is, Jason, you wisely pointed out, of course, that in the mainstream, for a lot of people out there, progress, quote unquote, is their idol. So like you said, there's the novelty fallacy, thinking everything new is quote unquote better. Maybe it would work on the types of people that are in, adjacent circles and people we're all talking with, is to maybe gently point out that they're just doing the inverse of that. If they're just return, the past was better, then, they're critical of that whole worship of progress. Well, they're just worshiping the past. And again, I'm all about how do you feel agency and vitality and inspiration right now in your life, as you're alive, as you're living every day, with what you're doing and where you're going. That you get more people doing that based in some good things, grounded the right way. That is how we're going to see more blossom and more projects like this created, more community created, more relationships created, just healthier people, healthier lifestyles, healthier way of being.
Very well stated, Jared. Brent, did you have something to add to that, or would you like to move on with the site?
Oh, I'd like to move on.
All right. Where to now, brother?
If you roll up to the white well-being square with the little girl, the happy girl there. Yeah. So if you click on the little hamburger link there, there's two links there, white well-being resources. So those are the two pages that I'd like to go over now.
Okay.
So this is something that I've had in mind for quite a while.
I'll grab it. Go ahead.
All right. And, I know that people have said that we don't have any of our movies now. We don't have our own music now. We don't have, this and that. So I wanted to curate some of this material together because,
Nice.
it's kind of like, I don't know, you own a car dealership and people have come along and stolen 90% of your cars, and they spray painted some of the other cars and they smashed them. Well, we still have some cars of our own that still work well. They're fine. They haven't been touched. So what I did is this page right here is movies. And at the top there's some links. So I divided up into some categories, and I just put stuff on there that I could think of and some ideas from some other people. So everything on this page promotes white well-being in one way or another. I didn't just put stuff on here willy-nilly because it's a good thing to watch. There's something to learn, or there's something about our biospirit, or there's some role modeling. There's something in there for all of this stuff for either kids, or some of that is for adults. And the first idea was to put stuff on there for the kids, because parents might think, hey, I want to show something wholesome for the kids, but everything I see is garbage. So these pages that will continue to be developed over time will be a place that parents can go to, and they can look through here for ideas. Nice. And again, if you click on the picture, it will go off to, most of these will go to Wikipedia, and they'll talk more about the movie or something like that. So I just wrote a brief little description on these things. It's just to give people an idea of what they can do. So I have stuff for kids, and I have Westerns. So I want to talk about Westerns for a little bit.
All right.
Because I grew up watching Westerns. I didn't grow up as a city kid. I grew up out in the country. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the times we'd be playing outside. And I grew up with an uncle that was just 3 years older than me. He was adopted. And he's a Navajo. So I didn't know that he was a Navajo, and he probably didn't know that I was white or whatever. But anyway, we'd play cowboys and Indians. But because he was older, he always got to be John Wayne. So I was always the Indians, and he was always the Cowboys. But the reason, yeah, it's funny. The reason that I have the Westerns on here is because this is kind of like a society that's been stripped down. You're seeing the Western biospirit in a very simplified frontier setting, where it's not really complex. I had a friend from New Jersey who was going through the channels, and he saw a John Wayne movie for 10 minutes, and he said, "Oh, these people are stupid." I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, they're worried about getting water and fighting off some Indian attacks, and they don't want their horses to run off out of the corral." And I said, "They're not stupid. That's how they live. That's what was important to them." And one of the reasons that I think Western movies can be important is because you're able to look at people living in simplified situations. There's not a lot of complexity in there. And you can see how the biospirit is expressed, and what do they build out in nature. And then slowly, how does that technology get infused into that? And there's a lot of good role modeling for young boys, not necessarily because these guys are going around acting tough and they're shooting things with guns, but because this Western attitude that you'll see with the cowboys, or whatever you want to call them, they don't overreact to things. They don't get upset about things. They just get the job done. And they know that things are going to go wrong and things are going to go tough, and you're going to suffer, but you just keep doing it. So that's why I wanted to have one spot here that's just for Westerns. And then I have European mythos. So these are movies about European time periods. And so you can see right there, I get the Lord of the Rings at the top. And a movie that's really good is Lady Hawk. A lot of people don't know about that. That's a really, really good one. And there's a few other ones in there as well. Now, not all the movies are going to be appropriate for really young kids, or for middle-aged kids, or for young adults. So I didn't go through and explicitly state this is for this or this is for this. I think that's up for the parents to decide. What else did I did? I got historical and sports, male role models. So I want to talk about the male role models when we get down to that part. One thing I want to say too about historical, people have got to remember that Hollywood is in history. So even though something might be, quote, a true story, it's not really a true story. You're never going to see anything that's a true story. So The Right Stuff, I went through and I read what the actual astronauts had to say about the right stuff. Some of them were okay with it, and some of them didn't like it because things were changed.
Right.
You know, Master and Commander, that's taken from a bunch of different books and put together. And Immortal Beloved, that's a Hollywoodized version of some letters that Beethoven had written, and they wanted to figure out who was Beethoven writing to. Let's go back and examine his life. You know, Kingdom of Heaven, there's going to be some fictionalized stuff in there. You know, The Messenger about Joan of Arc. So each one of these things is going to be close to it. It can give you a feeling for these different time periods, but it's never going to be exactly the same thing.
Brant, do you have any kind of disclaimer on the site that briefly mentions what you just said, to maybe keep that in mind for the kids and the parents, that you know, you have the movies on because they've got enough good stuff to warrant being there, but to bear in mind the kind of thing that you just said?
No, I didn't. I haven't had this on here very long, and I didn't know exactly where I wanted to put that because I don't want to write a bunch of text all over the place. But I think something at the top of that would be appropriate. And then, you know, if you think, you know, what I wrote down is wrong, you know, check with NPR, check with CNN. They'll give you the rundown and the truth about these things. But yeah, it's a good idea.
What do you think was lost, or why there was a decline in the Western being so popular? It was such a popular movie genre in the 50s and 60s.
Okay.
And I guess it continued in the 70s as well, a little bit. TV and movies.
Okay.
And
Well, I think
my dad, grew up on that stuff.
I think one of the things is, if there is just a genre that's been going on and on and on and on and on, people are naturally going to want to see something that's a little bit of a change. And I think science fiction started to fill into that gap a little bit. But another reason, which might even be bigger, is I have got another page, and on the other page, there's different type of stuff, not just movies, and it has TV shows on there. And when I was trying to figure out why that happened to the TV shows as well, there was something called the Rural Purge. And I think that was in the early 70s. So I think we know who the executives are of the television stations. What they decided to do is take off these shows that depict people in rural settings, and let's start having settings of people in Los Angeles and New York. So I think there was a conscious shift away from showing our people out in these rural settings and Western movies, and let's put our attention on something else. Let's spend our money on producing something else.
That's a good point that I've never consciously thought about, but now that you say it, I recognize it instantly. Because again, when the TV's on and they have those stations, or at least the nights on certain stations where they show TV shows and movies from decades of like the mid 20th century, the 50s, 60s, and a bit into the 70s, there's a lot more stories about rural settings. That's absolutely true. And then it declines when you get into the 80s.
Yep. And there's a few Westerns that I put on there, and I read a lot about a lot of different Westerns, and it's almost as if the studios and fans were surprised if a Western was successful at all in the 80s or in the 90s. Say, for example, up at the top there, Lonesome Dove came out in the mid 90s, and that surprised a lot of people, but it's just done extremely well. It's just an extremely good story, and some of the best acting that you'll ever see. And if you produce something that is extremely high quality, people are going to be attracted to it. People are going to watch it. If you produce something that is garbage, people are not going to be attracted to it. It doesn't matter if it's in the genre that you think they're going to want to see. And on the other page, when Jason's done checking there, Jason, can you go back to the homepage and click on the other What Will Bing resource page?
The
Just
TV. Is it the TV shows?
Yes,
Okay.
please. Just so I can show Jared what I was talking about.
As Jason navigates, you mentioned a movie, Lady Hawk. I'm not familiar. Why is that a particular that stood out to you?
Well, when you see Lady Hawk, people talk about aesthetics. It is incredibly beautiful. The story is basically a bishop of an Italian town that was in love with a woman, and he wanted the woman to be his, but she was in love with the captain of the guard. So this bishop put a curse on the captain of the guard and the woman, so that half the time he would be a wolf, and the other half of the time, when he became a man again, she would turn into a hawk, so they could never be together again. So it's this story of them traveling across the countryside, and they happen to pick up this little guy by Matthew Broderick, who's a thief, and he kind of helps out. He's kind of like comic relief, and it's a romantic story, but it's also action. And he has this gigantic, beautiful war horse, and they go tromping around in front of castles and mountains with snow on it. So if you just watch the movie, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Wow, I've never even heard of it. When was it made?
Like 83, 84. On all the movies there, I wrote down when they came out. See, and again, that's why I put this stuff on here. And there's going to be stuff that people know about that I don't know about. If they let me know, I'll put this on here too. Like we've got to have a spot where this stuff is curated, and we can go here and we can look at it, because all this stuff already exists. We've got plenty of good stuff. See, we just don't know about it.
Yeah, so, just real quickly, and then jump right back. I just got to say, this is totally epic. Seeing all that you put together here is so magnificent. Family. Well, I mean, before even mentioning family, just folks, just singles out there who want to take an hour, 2 hours, or whatever from the grind. They want to turn on something. They want to watch something. Here it is. Here's where you can find something that isn't vehemently, acerbically, disintegratingly, subversively anti-white, deviously undermining our people. These are places where you certainly, then talking about the family, you can take your family, your kids, with the qualifier that some of the material is obviously not going to be suitable for certain ages, but you can bring your family. You all can watch things. It's just so wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm gonna pass it back to you because I want to hear more.
Okay, thank you for that. Jason, if you can scroll down a little bit, I don't remember exactly what show it is. Okay, right there, the Waltons down. The Waltons wasn't a show that I was that excited about as a kid. It was kind of boring to me. It was all right, but you'll see right there, I have a link to the Rural Purge. So that's what I was talking about with Jared. And the Waltons, when they created the Waltons, the executives started getting rid of these rural shows, and I don't remember the whole story. You can read about it. And there was a backlash from Congress. Actually, Congress cared about this. So one of these studios, they created the Waltons, but they thought, you know what? Okay, we're going to create the Waltons, but we're going to put it in a time slot where no one will ever watch it. And then we could say, aha, see, no one wants to watch this crap. But the Waltons was very popular, like that. So there's still an audience for these things. They just don't want to make it for us.
How about that?
That's incredible. I know the show Yellowstone right now is extremely popular. I haven't watched it. I have no idea if it's because it's contemporary. I know it's not Old West, but if it's the Western setting, or that it's just, I have heard that it's kind of like a mafia thing, but just in a Western rural setting. I have heard it's a little crazy and violent. So I don't know. I don't know if either of you know about it or anyone in the chat knows about it, but a lot of people talk about this show Yellowstone that Kevin Costner's involved in. And I mean, Kevin Costner does seem, in general, you never know, he does seem like one of those people in Hollywood that is a little more aware and is not as, he hasn't totally drank the Kool-Aid, and maybe, tries his best to get some healthy messages into some of the projects that he's been involved in.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw the prequel to that, and I was enjoying the prequel to Yellowstone, and then they started having the traditional degenerative stuff. I thought, well, this woman's going to get with this guy, and this guy's going to die, and all these things, there's going to be the mixing of these different people in this, and it turned out exactly that way. Very, very formulaic, and it kind of sneaks up on you. You don't notice. It's like, hey, this is a cool show. Again, it's the rat poison. Rat poison works because it's attractive, it tastes good, and you keep chomping it, and then there's the poison inside there. So what they did with the prequel for Yellowstone is what they've done with a lot of other shows like Mad Men and other ones, where it's like, hey, it's showing these white guys and they're strong and independent or whatever, and then slowly the women start telling them what to do, and then they become cuckolds, and then so it just slowly devolves over time. And the people writing the shows, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
So when that started happening with the prequel to Yellowstone, it was called, like, I don't know, 1888 or 1886. It had some number. I'm not watching it anymore because I'm not here to be manipulated or play silly games. So now it's not realistic. Yeah, I'm done with it. Okay, so that was my bitch about that. So, so the other things on here, this was all the stuff that wasn't movies because there was way too much stuff to put on one page. The web server didn't like it. So I have some TV series here. And then I have composers underneath that. So these are just classical composers, just the ones that I like or I could think of. And then I just put one link to one of their most famous works there. This is something that I can work on over time. People want to add more to it. And then I'll have another section about modern music videos. I just have one in here for now. This is a great example of Western biospirit in a Western setting, and there's nothing weird about that, and people will really like it. I think it's already got over 1 million views on it.
Wow.
Okay, and then I went into literature, books, and the first part here is male role model books. Edgar Rice Burroughs was a great author. He wrote John Carter, and he also wrote Tarzan. Tarzan became very famous because it's easy to make a Tarzan show. It would be impossible to make John Carter because John Carter's adventures took place on Mars with a bunch of different types of aliens. So John Carter and Tarzan, they're basically the same person. So that's why I put these books on here. So these are more towards kids, maybe 5th grade, 6th grade, and on up. You've got John Carter, and then you have Tarzan, the Tarzan series, and then you have the Conan series. The Conan's a little bit different in that when Howard wrote those, he didn't write those into big novels. He wrote those into shorter stories, maybe 15 or 20 pages or so at a time. But it's fairly similar to the Tarzan and John Carter as well. So I put those in there. Masculine male role model. The next section I'll have is science fiction. I just put The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in there. It's extremely funny. That's the one book that people will actually laugh out loud while they're reading the book. And there's a whole series with that. And then I want to develop a next section, the classics. I just put in the Iliad and the Odyssey because that's stuff that I read in high school. But there's a ton of classics, not just the ancient classics, but you have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Around the World in 80 Days, and all the stuff that Jules Verne did. Moby Dick. A lot of these things that maybe are not even read in school anymore. Some of these I've read, and some of these I haven't. But I want to put things in there that have lessons for us. And again, people say that classics are books that everybody talks about but nobody reads.
Yeah.
So it would be nice if we did have time that we could read some of these. So if there's a reason to read it, I'll put it on here, and I'm going to say why on here. Why is this important to read? Why? Okay.
Fantastic.
So underneath that, a section here, family friendly. This is just, good feeling books. Got the Laura Ingalls Wilder series and then the James Herriot series. So I just put a couple of the most famous from there. I read those as kids. And then the next section here, it says child favorites. These are really teacher favorites. These are books that are read very, very often in public school. And these are decent books. And if this stuff gets taken out of school, they're still good books, and you can understand why they might be taken out of school, and kids are learning something different now. So you've got the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you have Roald Dahl books, and Judy Blume and other ones. These are good. Most of these are around 4th grade, 5th grade reading levels. And the links on those goes to another page where I talk more about those authors.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then We got the little classical paintings here. These are just links to Final Blossom's videos. Final Blossom made these great videos. They're an hour long each, and he goes over 60 classical painters in each of those, and he's got classical music playing in the background.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. And the last section down there is modern painters. These are people that I think have been inspirational to a lot of, at least to males. So there's John Berkey, who's a fantastic, mostly science fiction artist. He has a unique style that you can see. Like the ships that he paints, they're very sleek looking, and there is the impression of movement, and it looks like they're really detailed. But if you get in close, they're not really detailed. He just kind of makes it look that way. And he did a lot of conceptual art that was then used later on. For example, like George Lucas based like the Death Star and some ships on John Berkey's paintings.
Cool.
He's done tons of stuff. These guys that I have on here have done an incredible amount of painting. And then, of course, we have Frank Franzetta with the Conan paintings. And we have Boris Vallejo with Tarzan and some other paintings along those, that ilk. He used a lot of bodybuilders, male and female bodybuilders for models. And then he'd put like a fantasy setting around that.
Cool.
And then there's Michael Whelan, who's done a ton of paintings as well for science fiction books. He combines different elements of kind of realism and then fantasy and Western and all sorts of stuff together. He's very, very good. And then on the bottom, I put Norman Rockwell in there. So Norman Rockwell is not in the same genre of those other guys, but he's classic Americana, and he was very talented, and his work is both wholesome and it's very realistic at the same time. And he has a huge body of work. So when you click on the paintings, it will go to information about the paintings. If you click on pictures of the authors, of the painters themselves, it goes to the Wikipedia or their own sites about that. So everything that's I have on these pages, it will go somewhere and give parents or kids more information about the painters or composers or TV shows or whatever.
Wow. Come on. This is awesome. I mean, this is so fantastic. I am so excited about everything that you have done here, and so grateful to you and everyone who's been contributing. Like right there, you see Final Blossom showing up. I mean, this is magnificent. This is the only way it could have ever been done. Well done.
Yeah, Brett, there's some contemporary painters, a lot of them Russian, funny enough, who are doing the kinds of things that might fit well. I can send you some links if you want to check out some artists.
Yeah.
To expand that. But yeah, I mean, it's such a great idea to have all of these things there, because as we were saying before, people complain, oh, like, what do I watch or what do I show kids? Well, you did the work for them. It's easy. You could just scroll, take a look at this, and
yeah,
you can immerse yourself in a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you, I'm sorry, Jared, go right ahead.
No, that's all.
I was just going to say, Brent, like you said, I mean, parents, families, singles, couples that are looking through literature, watching movies, looking at paintings, when they come across things that they think can fit, you are absolutely amenable to them giving their suggestions. Doesn't mean that it's absolutely going to end up on School of the West, but it does mean that Brant is definitely going to give it a looking over, and at the same time, yeah, we know. I mean, Franklin mentioned in the live chat a little while ago, just about everything you're going to come across is going to have some anti-whiteism in it, and that can be part of the education that you're still, the practice of going free, implementing that go free method is something you have to do all the time, and you can never just let your conscious brain turn off. It's unfortunate, but maybe those of us who are able to have our conscious brain turned on more of the time, those will be the ones that end up making it through the bottleneck. Imagine how that would look for the white race in the future, to have nothing but thinking people. That would be magnificent. But so you obviously, there nothing here is saying there's absolutely no anti-whiteism, but you're going to get far less poisonous, easier to identify, certainly with less education of going free, mean pathogens. And at the same time, you're going to be able to find some enjoyment and edification at the same time. This is just splendid. And so it is even more now, School of the West, a one-stop shop. You come here to have your homeschooling or your public schooling or your private schooling, whatever it might be, your religious schooling, supplemented with the wonderful materials that true champions, heroes, and lovers of our people are contributing, their time, talents, and endeavors. And at the same time, you can say, well, we just studied X, Y, or Z over here on School of the West. What do you want to watch for a movie this weekend, kids? Because you've all have been good, or whatever it might be, and we'll let you watch a movie. And you can stay right on School of the West and find a movie right there that is going to be far more wholesome and potentially even salubrious than the kinds of things that you're going to find today, certainly out on news and entertainment media. I just couldn't be more excited. Yeah, make these, like this part of School of the West, make this a treat for the kids. Yeah, and for yourself. Maybe you're single, maybe you're a couple. Make it a treat, certainly for the kids. Make it a treat for the kids that you do this work, you get this work done, and then we'll hop on over and we'll see, do you want to listen to any of Richard Wagner, as a treat? And make no mistake about it, anybody out there that would say, well, why would a kid want to listen to Richard Wagner? That's a question in your head, not in theirs. You introduce them to the beauty of our biospirit expressed in music, in play, and they will absolutely feel it the way that I think every one of us has felt it, at least as a child when hearing it. And then it's all these outside influences that interrupt and sort of stifle and stuff our ears, and then many people forget then. But there's something truly magical when you can feel that spirit of the West inside of you rise, sort of like one of these heliotropic plants. When the sun comes up in the sky, they turn toward the light and they follow it through the sky. That is what the spirit of the West does inside of you when it is expressed in a beautiful and a rich and a clearer and a truer way, true to the spirit of the West. That is what happens inside of you. And that is certainly what you want happening inside of your babies. What an absolutely magnificent, boy, this is major progress, Brant. I mean, it's a big salute to you, brother. There is hardly a thing being done right now that can compare to all of this wonderful work that can certainly be a rich soil for white families. God bless you, man.
Thanks. Yeah, well, I will say one thing about those composers that you're talking about there. I don't like boring music, and every example that I put on there for the composers is good stuff. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to think, oh, I'm going to click on this and my kids are going to go, oh, this is boring. Like, no, it's good. Trust me.
Brant's a taste maker.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Well, this will be one as this continues to materialize. This is going to be a physical place in the future, folks. It's going to be a physical place with marble statues, and the best of the best will be turned out from the School of the West, and they will, of course, be white positive and big agents of the reclamation of our destiny moving forward into history. Beautiful. And what else did you want to share with us, or did you have to share with us, or was that it, brother?
I guess we can look at one other page under the white well-being section.
Okay.
And it kind of fits in with what you talked about, looking for material that has some anti-whiteism in it. Mm-hmm. So the other link underneath that white well-being section is a little bit of a streamlined page about white well-being and being aware of anti-white propaganda. So I'm going to put all that stuff in one page. and I've organized it so people can follow through that from complete ignorance of what is this about, and to access more and more information. So most of the stuff is still the same, and I'll be adding to that. So you've got the what is propaganda. Here's a gentle introduction to it. This is how it's been used in the past, and then recognizing some anti-white propaganda in movies. So a lot of that is from Devin Stack. One of those is from you when you were talking about the Northman. So people can say, okay, here's examples of this. Now I can recognize it on my own. And then I've got a video there from Final Blossom, the one that he put out a couple months ago about white erasure. So why is this anti-white propaganda important? It leads to white erasure. This is what white erasure is. It's fairly simple. It's easy for people to follow. And then there's the book there. Okay, here's the source material for understanding this. And then underneath that, I'll have more and more information about youth, and then any miscellaneous resources as well down there on the bottom. So those movies that are there talking about the anti-white propaganda in the movies, that can be a juxtaposition to the other pages where here's movies without anti-white propaganda in it. And you can see that I'm not using a lot of terms at the beginning. I'm just talking about anti-white propaganda. And as people go further along, they'll learn more and more and more and more. Right. And of course, when they get Go Free, then they're going to see the rest of the lexicon.
Right. And that's the way it's got to be introduced. Perfect. Yeah. The water's got to feel comfortable.
That's right. You won't jump in.
That's right. I got to jump in. The water's got to feel comfortable. What a beautiful thing this is. Gosh, I really can't. It is hard to fathom that in the white sympathetic sphere, that anything so beautiful in its intentions and applications has been done. I mean, just this is the white family. This is our white babies. This is them shielded and inoculated against what the anti-whites would do to them. That's just, it is magnificent. Yeah, bless you and everybody that has participated and will participate in this project. Everybody. And folks, if you feel a calling, if you would like to help, you can reach out to Brant. And I think right here on the page, is it at the bottom of every page? Or contact right there at the bottom of every page. You can reach out to Dean Danger, and you can collaborate with him. And maybe you have an expertise. Maybe you were a biologist. Maybe you worked in a pharmacy. Maybe you are an artist. Maybe you work mechanic on crotch rockets. Whatever it might be, whatever you're interested in, reach out to Brant and see how you can contribute your time and talents to this beautiful collective endeavor here that will absolutely, the more we get, and I'm going to be next week, I'm going to be running ads for School of the West, and it will be the beginning of ads to come. So this is going to be something that continues to march forward and get built onto and become increasingly substantive. And it will be the only resource of its kind on planet Earth where white parents, whether they're singles, couples with their white children, single white individuals, couples, can come to this and be enriched in numerous ways. I mean, maybe one of these days we have the great Jared George with a little introductory video of how to be a great musician, how to get involved in music, and how to become something beautiful in that field. So it is so collaborative, and that is what that really is how we recapture our destiny, is bringing all of these wonderful talents from around the world, our people, a great white ring around planet Earth, bringing it all together in a place where it is accessible. And by the way, if you would like to support Brant and the work that he's doing, please reach out to him here as well. You can go to the bottom of the page on School of the West, go to the bottom of the page, and you'll see this contact email, and you'll be able to speak with him about this. Brant, any other information you want to share about that?
There's a donate link at the top if people have the burning desire to lighten their wallets. So on the
There's right
donate page, there's different options for that.
Great. So that makes it, you don't have to actually send a message to Brant about that. You can just go to the top of the page for the donate button, home button there as well, bottom of the page to reach out to Brant. And Brant, is there anything specific that you're looking for right now from folks, or any way that somebody can help you? Maybe somebody, we got a lot of people who are out there who are also retired. Like to see some of these retired boomer folks who have a lot of time on their hands jump in and do some collating, do some whatever they've got all day long, and they could reach out to you. What are you looking for? Anything specific right now?
The section that I'll be developing next, and I have a few videos that need to be edited, is going to be a self-sufficiency section. Because you may notice that on the home page, there's one little square that's missing. That's where the self-sufficiency goes.
Oh, okay.
So I have some stuff, working on vehicles already, and a little bit of farming, and gardening and fishing. Sounds pretty simple, but it's skills that our people used to have before we became, quote, modernized and forgot how to do everything. And people do this all day. Where's my
right?
That. So if there are people who want to share talents that they have, maybe they can crochet some things. Maybe someone wants to show them doing some woodworking, whatever that is. Or someone's going to show, okay, this is how you bake the most delicious pecan pie. These are, traditional skills that I'm looking for, that I want to put on there. Now, some of this stuff, it might be repeated someplace else on YouTube. That's fine. But I want to at least start with a category there of some traditional type of skills. So going, here's how you raise some chickens. Here's how you do different things. Because these are some of the things that are valuable.
Yeah.
And it can promote, or will promote, self-confidence. And there's going to probably be some times where some of our people are going to have some of these skills. And again, I didn't grow up as a city boy. And whenever my dad worked on a vehicle, I had to be there right next to him with the flashlight. Doesn't matter what the temperature was. And I learned how to do all of these things, and I hated it as a kid. And then when I grew up, I thought, oh, I can do all this stuff. I don't have to spend a whole lot of money and take my vehicle to some shop that's going to open up my brake lines. And when I go in there and they say, oh, look, here's your brake fluid on the floor. We got to replace your brakes and your brake lines and your Johnson rods and your overthruster unit. And we're going to have to put a new engine in. Like, oh, okay. No, we're not doing that. No. So I want people to be competent. I want people to be educated. I want people to be able to take care of themselves. All of these things, be complete humans.
Yes. I love it. This is, these sorts of skills that Brant's talking about here are the kind of things that you can actually put into use in your life. So this is not, this is not like where people go and waste their time with these prepping for events that are never going to happen and they could never survive. He's talking about usable things. And if you have those skills, you can jump in and you can help to teach how many folks. And maybe you were a person, maybe you were a guy that, because of anti-whiteism and because of the abundance that white men have created in Western civilization, and women not needing men for protection, not needing men for anything anymore, you didn't get chosen. You weren't the prettiest guy out there, but you ended up in life becoming an excellent mechanic or something. This specifically for this category. Of course, it can be for anything. You could be an accountant. These are things that you can help to teach. You can pass on to our youth, and you'll be remembered. Think about that way. Maybe you didn't end up with kids, but you could end up being remembered by who knows how many young men out there, for example, who don't have fathers, or father's not acting like a father because he's submissive to the mother. And so the kid learns about his breaks from you. So yeah, jump in and participate. This could not be more beautiful. And I'm not going to beat a dead horse about how this is insane that the rest of the white sympathetic sphere is not like effusive over School of the West. But that is the case. We're going to change it nonetheless with advertising. We're going to be out there. We're going to be making it happen with smart advertising. We're going to get as many people aware of this as possible. And I'll tell you what, if I'm able to reach a point where we got lots of money, lots of plenty money, then there'll be commercials on television. There'll be spots on radio, and there'll be and we'll file suits when necessary, when they won't play what we have here. Or if I run for office, even and they've got to run what I provide, well, then I'll be talking about School of the West. I'm going to be talking about these things because this is all about recapturing our destiny. This is all about protecting our children from anti-whiteism. This is all about us becoming a people that we haven't been since sort of a mythical understanding of some path that we share here in the Go Free method and with the literature that I provided, real and fiction. That at some point we were a tribe, but we were a single people, and we know it. And then we fell to the rulings of petty chieftains and went different ways, and we drew swords on each other, and we haven't been a single people since then. It's beyond time immemorial, and we are going to be the people who make it happen. We are going to be the people who cause our brothers and sisters the world over to accept and understand and feel in the marrow of their bones that we are a single people with many countries. And this is right here is a great manifestation example of that fact. God, man, I could not be more exciting. What else did you want to share? And Jared, George, any thoughts that you have had on past couple minutes on what Brant has said or what I have said? Please jump in.
It would basically be repeating what you'd said. So I don't think I have much to add. Probably I've spoken enough and asked enough, but it is amazing to see. How recently, Brant, did you add the movies and the paintings and the music? Have you had any feedback about it yet?
I put it on there about a week ago, and I haven't had any feedback yet because I haven't told anyone until now.
So this is the announcement.
Yeah. I worked on it for a few months off and on whenever I had time. It took a while to learn how to put some of this stuff together, but it was also fun at the same time because it was a creative process, and it was things that I had thought about for a long time. And I went back into my childhood and thought, okay, what did I read when I was a kid? What was important to me? What's going to make a difference to other people? And then I rediscovered some things that I hadn't thought about in quite a while. And it looks like a lot of the stuff comes from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And yeah, that's true that it does. And if there's some more modern things that will fit in there as people tell me about it, I'll put that in there as well. I'm not trying to just pick things from a specific time period. I'm just trying to pick good quality material.
Yeah, that's exactly how I think it should be done. We are perennial, and these time periods. This can be a linear thing that we perceive, that we're able to understand, and at the same time understand that anywhere in that linear time frame is just not something that's old. It's something that's still with us, and if we choose to manifest it again, then we recreate. It's sort of like it's always renascent. Even coming together as a single people again, recognizing this. I mean, even that is renascent because at some point it must have been the case. So it's really beautiful. God bless you, man. Let's get to some of these financial gifts. We didn't know if we were going to have enough time tonight. Brant said, yeah, if we went out of time, we could talk about something else as well. Throw in maybe some levity to the conversation, but it couldn't have been more wonderful. All right, let me do this. And
Yeah,
we
you had, you
will.
had you had more than enough to take up a full tap episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have to bring you back for the levity. Over here on
Yeah, Brant. Yeah, Brant Danger Comedy Hour. Work on some stand up.
All right.
we have over here on Cash App over the $20 mark, which means 07s and raucous emojis for a perennial champ in the white positive sphere. No white guilt clips, ladies and gentlemen. A big celebration for this guy. Financially gifting 30, save us from the anti-white dollars, 30 Promethean hails to Brant Danger dollars. And he says here with those $30, great job, Brant, exclamation point. Well, that means a lot coming from somebody who works as hard as clips here in service to white well-being. So thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate that. Let me swivel around. Odyssey is blank. I just looked at that. Let's take a look at entropy. And 07s, might as well keep those babies out. Keep those babies out. 07 salutes and raucous emojis, because we got two epic champions. They had just strode into the room, and there was dust, and there was debris, and there were swans singing. They weren't mute anymore. They were singing the praise of two champions, the great Four Null and Dude Bro Moment. Both of these champions financially gifting $50 apiece. $50. God bless you both. The Dude Bro Moment writes here, for white well-being, as he is wont to write, a real champion. And the great Four Null, another hero, non-Perel, writes, thanks, Brant, exclamation point. Yeah, we couldn't be more excited. Isn't this just completely awesome? This is complete. I just had like a vision of maybe a class by the great Four Null, and he's sitting down. He's got his guitar, and he's got his computer gear. It's like, who knows what, all the things that he can do with computers. It's happening, and he's like, okay, kids, now I'm going to teach you about everything. But we also have, with these two champions financially gifting, the great Rory Herbert, financially gifting $5, and he writes this. I noticed that Brant listed the 64 film Zulu as one of his favorites. I sent you a photo from 1914 of my great-grand uncle on parade with John Williams, who was awarded the Victoria Cross at Rook's Drift for his actions at the hospital. How about that? So could we share that with could you send that on to Brant, and because we actually have a member of the community, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rory, for that. Who was present, and then the kids who watched that could say, I saw a picture of an actual person. I'm a step removed from that. But that's wonderful. Thank you all for these fantastic financial gifts. I'll give a quick refresh. And we have such a great community. We really, really have a great community. And School of the West is just a gem in the crown of white positivity. I love it, man. Brent, do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share before we wrap it up here?
The only thing I want to say is that when people come up with ideas, just let me know. I saw a couple things written down in the chat that I wrote down here, and as I have time, I'll get on that. That's it.
That's wonderful. And as we pointed out, folks, at the bottom of the website, schoolofthewest.world, schoolofthewest.world, you'll find the contact. You just click on that. You can reach right out to Brant with your thoughts, ideas. And Rory, you could reach right out to him with that photograph. That would be epic if you would. Mr. George, the great Mr. George, what are your final thoughts? Where can people find you? And in case you're unaware, brother, we played one of your songs again the other day, and people went bonkers. They were like, who is this? This is awesome.
Oh, really? Thank you. Yes, there should be one coming out soon. I know it's been a long time, but yes, had to get the whole mechanism back up and working, and a lot more to come. But funny enough, it's thegreatorder.com, but for the second, I don't know, I had the website all updated, set up, but it wasn't showing, but it should be back online soon. That was just brought to my attention while we were doing the show. But that is where everything is. And then the Great Order on social media. The Great Order is on Twitter, but all those links are on the website.
Awesome, brother. Well, it's been marvelous, Tab, as always. A particularly heartwarming one, a particularly productive one.
Yes.
When you see this, when you see this kind of growth, well, I can just tell you right now that in all these years, you don't see this kind of growth. I've been involved in so many groups, helped so many groups. You just don't see like genuine, original things that are being done that are clearly, you can tell, really elicit excitement, because you can tell that it's going to make a difference in people's lives. Jared, were you going to say something about that, brother?
No.
Okay.
Just agreeing.
Yeah, to be a member of this is to truly be in the best community in the world. That's no exaggeration whatsoever, folks. So if you're brand new, I know we got a lot of new people. On Sunday, we'll talk about this. We have a lot of new people showing up, and they're excited. A lot of people are excited. The sub counts are going up everywhere. They're very excited about the Go Free method. They've never heard about it before. There are other content creators out there never talking about it. It's the best kept secret to white well-being. That's why. And they're coming over. If you don't know yet, I mean, if you would like to be a part of this, if you would like to be one of those heroes in the story that's being written right now, whether you realize it or not, there are history books being written right now, whether you can see them or not. If you want to be one of the people whose names go in that history book about a true savior of our people, one of those people that our descendants will look back on and say, thank God he lived. Thank God she lived. Thank God they cared, like Brant Danger here. Thank God. If you want to be one of those people, you got to get involved. So stick with us. Look into and investigate the Go Free method that we implement here. It's very easy. It's very easy to do. It's just a practice. There's nothing arcane about it, but it will change everything. A big thank you to our troll slayers who are slaying trolls as always, and they're the best in the world. And Brand here, he's not only Dean Danger, but when he's not being Dean Danger, he's troll slaying. So there's multiple jobs. This is how I think it's just so exciting. It's actually like being in an adventure book that's being written, while we're in it. It's living that life. This creating anew. It's wonderful. Exactly what Mr. George was talking about there. Just being a part of the process of creation, birthing something completely original. It's just very exciting. So big thank you to everybody who participated in the live chat, and to everybody who was just lurking in the background and checking it out, seeing what it feels like. And of course, a big debt of gratitude to those who are, as I mentioned earlier, participating in various ways, not the least of which, of course, over the course of this stream, was financially gifting. And deeply appreciate you and your service to white well-being. And we look forward to seeing you all again next time.